Hi everyone, my name's Declan McGlynn. Welcome to Friday Forum and part 2 of our deconstruction of Todd Terje's synth soundscape disco epic, Delorean Dynamite. This time we'll be looking at sound design and rebuilding some sounds Terje used in this instant cosmic classic. So last week, in part 1, we took a look at the more musical and melodic side of Delorean Dynamite and showed you how the bass line and melodies were put together. But this week, we're going to take a look at the sounds and how Ski designed them using Ableton's synths. The track is full of epic, soaring synths, so if you're thinking of crafting your own space jam, stay tuned. So Ski, last week we had a lot of fun recording guitar and using the bass line, and you showed us a nice trick. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, make sure you watch it after this one. So, do you want to talk a little bit about how the sounds are put together?
Yeah, sure. I think, well, first of all, I just want to say, one of the reasons we're doing this is because quite a lot of the previous deconstructions I've done, I've just concentrated on the musical side, the chords and whatever, and I often get lots of questions or comments, messages saying, how did you get that sound? And we've made a few sounds available to download, but I just thought it'd be quite good to dedicate a whole program just on that. So. Yeah, I'm going to concentrate on the bass sound because as well as actually building it out of the analog device in Ableton, I also kind of created a rack where, kind of like a MIDI effect to provide an octaver, and also just assigning the filter cutoff, which is a fairly sort of standard thing, but I'm just going to show how to sort of put it into a group so it's then accessible from push, because it's really handy for recording down automation. And then we're going to look at this sort of epic pad sound as well, that really kind of cosmic sound that, again, was built with the analog device, but I just kind of, the key to it was just the effects, the effects that you have available in Ableton. So, yeah, I'm going to go for it. So, should we kick off with the bass sound?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so I've got the original project. I think to make it easier to see, we should kind of provide some kind of zooming. So I'm just going to go to Preferences and just increase the zoom display. There we go. So just in case you think that we're not using some really prehistoric computer, that's okay, so first thing to do is I'm just going to create a brand new channel here, instrument channel, and there we go. And let's just drag over an analog. So this is our default sound here. Let's just turn it down a little bit. And let's just kind of go through the process of how I built this up. So first of all, I'm just on this kind of volume section, the right-hand panel here, and I'm just going to make sure that the routing is actually the default setting is this bottom left here, and that just means that both oscillators pass through the same filter and amp section. So then now let's look at the two oscillators here. And the first thing to do is to make sure that the actual waveform is a saw wave, and again that's kind of defaulted there, so we can keep that like that. I'm then going to turn each one down an octave, just so it's kind of in the right kind of range. We're making a bass sound here, so we want to make it kind of bassy. And this is quite important, I'm just going to detune this second oscillator up like 0.03, and we instantly get that kind of phasing sort of effect, having it slightly detuned. So we'll sort of see how that works a little bit more as we go on. The next thing to do is to bring in an extra oscillator here, which is the sub-oscillator. And we can get that just by clicking onto the oscillator 1 panel and just increasing the level up to 100%. You can really hear the difference already. That's without it, that's with it. So we're done with the oscillators. Now we're going to go to the filter, and remember, because both oscillators are passing through the same filter and amp section, we only have to worry about this one filter section panel here. So we're going to keep it here as a low pass, 24, and we're going to turn the resonance up, and then take the cutoff down. So you can hear kind of already we're in the right kind of ballpark here. But as I mentioned before, this filter cutoff we're going to assign to a macro, so it doesn't matter too much what we've got here. Next thing to look at is the filter envelope amount, and this is basically the control that assigns how much this envelope here is affecting the filter cutoff. So I'm going to take it down, it's 4 at the moment, I'm going to take it down to about 1.47, yeah, that will do. And then let's look at the actual envelope. We're going to leave the attack 5 milliseconds. Decay we'll put at around 400. Sustain down to 0, and then the release, we can take that, we want it to be quite a kind of short, sharp sound, so I've got that about 97 milliseconds, that should be fine. We can take the drive off, and then it might be nice to have a little bit of LFO affecting this filter cutoff as well, so I've just turned that LFO on. We can maybe tempo sync that, put that to maybe 1/8. There we go, and then go back to the filter section, and we can just bring in a bit of that. You know, that's what it's like, you know, you get a real kind of wobble sound, but I think just having like a little bit of modulation in there from the LFO could be quite nice.
Especially when it's arpeggiated and it's repeated quite a lot, it's nice, a variation.
But you can already kind of hear how warm that is, you know, when we bring up that LFO, it's really, really, really nice. So just have a little bit of that. Let's just put it back to where it was. There we go. Okay, next we go to the amp section, and for this we want to pretty much kind of have a similar envelope to the filter envelope. So I'm going to bring this decay kind of down to around 300. Sustain is 0, and the release, around kind of 200, around there. That should do. And you can hear at the moment it's velocity sensitive. I want to take that off. I just want it to be, I'm just taking this control down here, the envelope velocity control. So, and we generally need to kind of compensate when we do that. So I'm just going to turn the amp level back up a bit. Okay, so we're definitely getting there. The next thing to do is to look at how many voices. And I want this to be a monophonic sound. At the moment, I can play kind of chords with it, but I don't want it to act like a monophonic synth. And that generally means that, I mean, it's not so crucial with this sound because there's not much release. So that, you know, my main worry here would be is I wouldn't want kind of, as it's a bass sound, notes to be kind of overlapping each other. So I'm just kind of going to turn it into a monophonic sound anyway. But I'm going to make use of the unison mode, which is basically the same as kind of like playing 2 notes at the same time. So I'm just turning that on, and I'm just, we'll keep the voices to 2. And we can also, just to kind of add a little bit more kind of width to the sound, just increase the tuning, detuning a little bit on that. So we're pretty much there with the sound. I think that's sounding pretty good.
Yeah. This is a classic kind of mini Moog.
Yeah.
Any standard synth bass.
Exactly. So what I found is I just wanted to sort of boost a little bit of the bottom end here. So just around 100 Hertz, I'm just kind of boosting that up by, I don't know, a couple of dB. Just kind of gives it a little bit more depth. And then, now I don't know if this is a sort of controversial thing at all, but I sometimes quite like adding reverb to bass sounds. And not too much, but just kind of take the dry wet level down, so it's about sort of 25%. It's just kind of giving it a bit of, you know, kind of expanding the sound and making it a little bit more spacey as well. And yeah, I think, you know, compressing this bass sound could be quite good as well, especially, you know, when we start kind of messing around with the filter cutoff, you know, it can sort of jump out sometimes. So I'm just going to turn on RMS, take the ratio can sort of stay at 2:1, take the threshold down to maybe -13. You can hear it sort of like clipping a little bit there, so maybe I'll bring down this amp level. Okay, so I think that's sort of quite happy with that general sound. Now, the next thing I want to look at is this octaver that I had set up as a macro. And the reason I put this in was because I was using that transpose device, and I was just sticking on the kind of one note, sort of the bottom D and the top D, and then the fifth as well. just to kind of, in order to like vary that part, to use the octave, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So it's quite an easy thing to do. I'm going to go to my MIDI effects here, and I'm going to click on the MIDI effect rack, and that puts it right at the start of the chain. I'm then going to drag the pitch effect and drop it into that area there. Then going to open up the chain list, and so you can see now that we've got this pitch device here, and as I drag that up and down, it's going up and down in semitones. What I want to get is 3 different chains. So one at the sort of 0, so no transposing at all. The next one up an octave, so it'll be 12 semitones. The next one up 24 semitones. And then assigning a macro so I can actually switch between the 2. So what I'm going to do is just click on that chain there and duplicate that twice. And on the second chain, I'm just going to type in 12 semitones. And then on this one, next one, I've got 24 semitones. And then we can just kind of go in and name those as well. 0 semitones, 12 semitones, and then 24 semitones. There we go. So that's all well and good, but we now need to work out a way of switching between them. So if I then click on this button here, which is the Show Chain Selector editor, I can then, for each chain, I can then assign a kind of zone. So they're all set to 0 at the moment. So I'm going to set the second one to 1, and then the next one to 2. So we've got that there. And now the next thing to do is to assign a macro to this chain selector, so we can actually switch between those 3 zones. So if we click on the map, and then just press, and you can see it kind of goes green there, the various areas, various things that we can assign to the macro. This actual kind of area, the selector ruler is called. Press Control and then map to macro 1, and then go up to the list here, and we can set a minimum and a maximum. So I only want 3 values basically. I want 0, 1 and 2. So we can just drag this right down to 2. There we go. And then let's just take the mapping off. If I then very easily switch between those zones, which is cool. So now next thing I'm just going to what I want to do now, is to put all of that into a rack where I can actually have 2 macros where I've got this octave selector and the filter cutoff as well. So in order to do that, I'm just going to select all of these. Let's have a look. There we go. Having a bit of trouble selecting all those, but and then I can just click on Group. So that's then grouping all of those, and very easily I can then just click on the mapping, and I can assign this to macro 2, and then go to the filter cutoff on the analog and map that to macro 1. There we go, turn the mapping off, and then if I just click on the device here, got those. So that's my kind of bass rack.
Yeah, cool.
That's how I did it.
Nice.
So that's the bass. Let's now have a look at these kind of really nice pad sort of synthy chord sound that I was using. I'll just remind you of that. There we go. So let's just do the same thing. You can see here there's kind of like a whole bunch of effects. Let's do the same thing. Let's just create a new track. There we go, and we're going to start from scratch again. Go to Instruments, drag down an analog. There we go. So this time with the quick routing, we're going to go for the top left, but actually it doesn't matter because I'm actually just going to turn off the bottom oscillator. We're just going to have the top oscillator, so it's actually irrelevant that router. So yeah, we've got this. Let's just stick with a saw wave. That's the one we want. It's just got that really kind of nice, kind of gritty sound that reacts really well with the filter cutoff. Then going to go to the filter section, and let's just increase the resonance on this. Take the cutoff down. Now the key to this sound is I really want, as we had with the bass sound, but I want this filter envelope to really shape the bass sound. So I want to have, you know, it's sort of the filter cutoff coming down a bit sort of more slowly this time. So I'm just going to increase the envelope here to around 6. And I want to increase the attack to make it a bit of a longer attack. Can you hear that? How that's kind of working? It's quite nice for kind of pad sounds, not to have that kind of sharp attack that you've got with bass sounds. So yeah, let's also take the sustain down to 0 and just increase this decay to maybe around 2.6, 2.8. You can really hear that kind of coming down. Just take the cutoff, the general cutoff there. And let's increase the release as well to around 2, maybe 2.5. There we go. Let's go to the amp section. We can keep this pretty much kind of the work's being done by the filter envelope here, so we don't have to worry too much about the amplitude envelope here. We're not using the LFO. Let's just, in fact, we can probably increase the release. Yeah, I think give it a bit of release, but you can hear as I'm changing the chords, there's a lot of kind of overlapping going. Again, I want to sort of eliminate that. So the way to do that is just to go to this volume panel here and select the voices as 4. So, you know, it's kind of helping things a lot.
Sounds a lot like my broken Juno.
Really?
Yeah, it only has 4 voices, so.
Oh, really?
Why,
okay.
yeah.
But I just think that the analog device is just so kind of warm sounding.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Fat, you know, it's really, really great.
And that's a single oscillator.
Exactly, that's a single oscillator. So, so cool. I think I'm just going to now put a compressor on it. I just want to, you know, give the sound a bit more sort of sustained, really. Again, we have to sort of work with the volume, the output level here. Now it's just really a case of kind of really widening the sound and giving it some character. So this is basically how I kind of went about doing it, and you know, it was no particular order, but I started off with a ping pong delay and took the dry wet right down, and feedback I kind of left as it was actually. Left the beat division to 3 and yeah, just kind of was cutting a bit of the bottom end off that. I think there's a bit too much kind of bottom end in the sound, so I'm just going to filter off a bit of that low end. So I'm just going to bring in the EQ8 and just turn this into low shelf. Just sort of around, I don't know, around 180 hertz. Just take that off. The next thing is chorus. Of course, the Roland synths are famous for their chorus effects, aren't they? So let's put a bit of that in. That's kind of, yeah, kind of doing its thing. I think that's, try that. And then one more thing, a couple of more things actually. Let's just try a phaser on that as well. There we go, let's try it. So I'm going to put the phase to 360 degrees. Let's take the colour down to 0. Okay, and maybe take the dry wet level down a little bit. And also we want the LFO to be working on this, to actually kind of give it some movement. And just why not add a little bit of reverb at the end as well. So that's really working nicely. You know, it's just a really kind of nice wide sound out of a single oscillator on the analog. And I think it's really good to not be afraid to work with all the effects devices in Ableton. To really shape your sound. Don't just kind of bring up your device and just mess around and think, oh, this is kind of a bit boring and then go to a plugin, you know, like a third-party plugin or something.
Yeah, and speaking of third-party plugins, I was going to say that because you're using all the built-in devices, it doesn't hit as hard on the CPU as well.
Yeah,
because they're built into Ableton, so you can go a bit crazier.
Yeah, I think there's a general thing with people with, you know, using DAWs of not actually using the full potential of what's provided. You know, I mean, both Logic and Ableton have just got such amazing synths. And you know, it just taking a bit of time and just experimenting with the sounds. And I think that trying to recreate a sound that you love is a really good starting point. You know, trying to understand
exactly.
kind of what it is that's actually giving the character to the sound. So, so yeah, there we go. There's those two sounds.
So maybe we could listen back to what we did last week to hear them in context again.
Sure.
Maybe minus the guitar this time. Yeah. Sorry, JC.
Okay, so I'm just going to put the zoom, in that case, back to the one we had before. So let's just solo the pad first. And I'm going to bring in the bass. And you can hear on this one, on the bass, this was this automation that I wrote in that was the octaver. I didn't have it here. You can hear this kind of really, kind of just making it a little bit more interesting at that point. So yeah, there we go.
As always, Ski, amazing. So yeah, that's it for part 2 of our DeLorean Dynamite deconstruction. Hopefully you learned a lot, and if you like what you hear, Todd Terje's WLP, It's Album Time, is on sale now. We'll be back with a live FFL next Friday, so make sure you subscribe to our channel and say hello to our Facebook, Twitter for more free updates and tutorials. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.